The fourth supply side factor is production lag. It is well known that in all production systems, there are built-in delays. It means once a company commits itself to a project, it will take years before actual drilling takes place. And for OPEC countries, whereby many firms are state-owned, these companies have to produce even more of oil in order to generate similar or same amount of revenues to the government. As for private-owned companies, many of them often purchase derivative contracts to hedge themselves against oil price fluctuations. Therefore, when oil prices are low, the company will resume operation as usual due to the hedging contract that they purchased. The fourth is other supply factors. In particular, when Iran sanction was lifted a few years ago, it cost an additional 500,000 barrel of oil to enter the market. So this adds further pressure to the supply side and caused the price of oil to even go down even further. Now let's move on to demand side factors. The first will be stimulus package reduced. After the outbreak of 2008 financial crisis, many countries, in particular the United States, have engaged in expansionary fiscal policy, which translates into higher fiscal deficit, and also the country has kept interest rate very low in order to boost spending. During this period also, there were many projects that were undertaken which was not necessarily needed. For example, investment of US shale companies. And for example, in China also, during the economic slowdown post 2008, so there were many homes and factories were built. So when the pressure on the fiscal side of the country is getting worse, so this country began to cut back its deficit by raising interest rate in 2015. So rising interest rate, as we all know, will cause a contractionary effect to the economy and thus put downward pressure to the demand of commodities, in particular oil. So the increase in interest rate has caused imbalance in the supply and demand of oil to persist longer than anticipated. If you look at this figure, in most of the period from 2000 onwards, we can see that in most cases demand is higher than supply. But after 2014, for instance, we can see that supply actually exceeds demand. So we have excess supply, which cause pressure for the price of oil to go down. Last is contractionary monetary policy. So this is also in relation to the first factor just now. So countries beside the United States, the European countries, Japan, have also engaged in contractionary monetary policy. As we can see here, for example, according to Frankel 2014, these countries' policy has actually put decline on or put pressure on downward pressure on commodity prices. According to Hume 2014, almost 9 billion was withdrawn from commodity investment between September and October 2014 alone, which prompted price decline, namely oil and gold. To conclude this session, if we relate to what is actually happening right now, which is the outbreak of coronavirus, this has got to do mainly on the demand side, whereby the decrease in the demand from many countries around the world, from airline companies, from China in particular. So this will, as long as the virus cannot be contained, the drop in oil price is expected to go down even further. So how long will this continuous drop in oil price will be? It subjects to the uh, how soon countries, particularly from China, can recover from this virus. So it is very interesting to keep a close eye on this event. And for all importing countries, low oil price is good for the economy, but it is also a double-edged sword because those countries which import oil, in return, the demand for their export might be reduced as well due to the global economic slowdown from their trading counterparts. To conclude, today's session is to highlight some of the basic forces of demand and supply. There are many other factors that can be discussed, which can be perhaps a bit too technical, but for general reading, to understand the mechanics of demand and supply forces and how these forces actually work simultaneously to affect the oil prices. I hope that this discussion can shed some light and give the audience some basic understanding on the impact or the role of demand and supply in determining the movement of oil prices, whether it goes up or it goes down. One last note, at the end of the day, the price of oil is basically decided mainly by the commodity traders, which buy and sell oil in the Commodities Futures Trading Commission. So the price setting for the oil futures contracts are determined on daily basis, and how the traders actually respond to the demand and supply factors, which I've mentioned briefly in today's video, will affect the decision of the traders and also speculators whether the price should be traded higher or traded lower based on the interaction of these factors. I hope this discussion has can help better understanding on this issue, and inshallah next video we can discuss further on the issue of oil price shocks and how it actually affects the macroeconomy of country, whether being an oil importing country or oil exporting country. Till the next video, Assalamualaikum and thank you.